Hi, and welcome to the first Manatee tutorial. So what is Manatee? Manatee is a 16 voices, 4-part synthesizer with multiple engines and built-in effects. So what does that mean? That means that you have an instrument which is capable of playing 16 notes, different ones, over 4 parts, so they can be of 4 different type of sounds, using multiple engines, so you have different kind of synthesis engine, so you can build up your sound, and with the built-in effects, you can make some sounds which sounds nearly like completely produced. So, what does one need to start with the Manatee? So here I have my synthesizer, it's attached to the power using the universal power adapter which is provided in the box. I have a simple MIDI controller, here is a key step from Arturia, very standard one, so you can use your computer, a hardware sequencer, that will do, and you need some kind of device to play the sound back. So here the main bus is connected to my Module M4 sound interface so I can record, but you can also attach a pair of headphones or directly connect your Manatee to your mixing desk or your powered speakers. Now that the Manatee is properly installed, you want to play some sounds. So how do you select presets? First of all, you look at the screen and you have these 3 pots, which are the macro pots. The first one will allow you to select the bank. So you have bank from I to D. These are user banks. The middle pot allow you to select the preset within the bank. So each bank contains 64 presets. The last one is usually the default one. And you have a last pot that allows you to select the category, and this is for later saving and ordering your presets. So let's go back to the first preset. So now that it is selected, we can just simply play it. This sounds about right. Now that you can play some sounds, I would like to show you how to navigate the instrument. So if you look closely at the front panel, you will see different modules. So here on the top left, you have the envelopes module that controls the shape of the sound. Just below it, you have the sources module, which controls the sound generation. On the right, you have your filters, and at the top, you have the mixer module, and this is for the different sends to effect and the overall volume. So how to edit the sounds? So let's say you want to change the parameters of the filter for this specific preset. So let's play a note. Now I want to edit the cutoff. I just pick up the potentiometer, which is called cutoff. As you could hear, here I changed the cutoff and the resonance of the filter. So for most of these parameters, you have a direct access. Like you see the part, there's the label on top, and at all times it edits what it's written. The synthesizer is quite advanced, so there are parameters which are not directly available on the front panel. And for this, you need to have access to the extra parameters. So let's check first how we can select a module. So to select a module, it's quite easy. You just need to press on one button that belongs to this module. And the first press will not be registered as a change. So for example, let's say we want to modify the generator here. So I will click on the generator button here, and it will jump to the generator page, has not done any modification. Of course, if you press again, then you can change the waveform used for the sound generation. Now, what is important to understand is everything that is on the screen can always be edited with the macro pots. That means that the function of the macro pots depends on what's on the screen. So for example, here we are now in the generator page. So of course we can change the spectrum here with the dedicated pot. So here I'm setting another kind of spectrum. Okay, let's go for TX bells. But since it's on the display, it can also be edited here with the right macro pot. So you will say, what for? Well, there are some pages with extra parameters that don't have any dedicated potentiometer, and therefore you can use always the macropods to edit them. So let's take an example. Now I want to change the format control of my generator. So I will touch this potentiometer because it has direct access to format. But look at this. We have two extra parameters, rotation and inversion. But for these, there are no dedicated pods. So you need to use actually the macropods to edit them. So you may say there might be some other parameters that you can't access this way. And you're right. So let me show you the arrows keys. So the arrows keys are just below the macropod and they allow you to access to the extra parameters. So let's say we go back to the generator page. We have our main page here with the spectrum, the waveform used for reconstruction, the name of the basic spectrum. And let's say we want to access the extra parameters, which are format, inversion, and rotation. We can just press the right arrow here and we are there. So with these arrows, you can actually navigate through all the pages and find all the extended parameters. So now we are up to the filter. But let's say we want to go to edit delay module. We can press here. Now we'll see the basic parameters, the model of the delay, the timing, the feedback, but we want to access the extra one, then the arrow key, and now we can see the polarity of the feedback, the color of the delay, and the vibe of the algorithm. And of course, what's on screen can be edited with the macropods. So now I can change the vibe here, can change the color here, and I can change the polarity here. Special pages. There are a couple of special pages in the Manatee, basically for system configuration or MIDI channel settings and other parameters. For these, you need to use the Alt key. The Alt key can be pressed and hold, and then you press another key, or you can double click it and it will hold. And for example here, below the switches, you will see setup, MIDI, reverb, ARP, and panel. So setup is the general configuration of the machine. For example, the tuning, how it reacts to pitch bend, does it take CC, what's this MIDI idea, what about the CZX, the NRPM, you set it here. MIDI is related to the current part, to set the channel, to set the note it responds to, the velocity it responds to. Then you have the reverb, the arpeggiator, and the panel is just to take all the status of the panel and put it into the synthesis engine so that actually the sound matches what you have on the panel. So let's check, for example, the arpeggiator page. I press Alt and I press the button number 3 and it will jump to arpeggiator page. So you can see here we have no arpeggiator activated. The order is order, so it means it will play the notes in order you enter them. And if you want to access the additional parameters, as usual, you get them with the arrow keys. Since you have made this far into the video, I want to show you something special. You press Alt and generator and you jump to a hidden page, and this is the spectrum editor. But don't tell it to everybody, that's our secret. Now that we have seen how to select a preset, play it, edit some of its parameters, the main ones and the extra ones, we may want to save our work. So how to do this? We can press save, and it jumps to a page, which is the saving page, where you can actually select the destination and the name for your preset. So let's say we want to edit the preset name. So the first spot will allow you to select which character set you want. So we'll take some numbers now. The second pot will allow you to move the cursor to say which letter you want to replace. Look, here we want to add some version, for example. So let's say it's version 1. We will put a 1 and a 0. And then below you see the destination. So here we are on the slot A01. It's bank A, preset 1. We have already something here, so we don't want to save here. So we will move the arrows and find a slot which is empty, for example. And now we can press save again. And our preset is saved. So if you just want to save your modification, don't change the location of your preset. Simply press save twice and that will do. Alright, but you may say the Manatee is a multi-timbral synth and we have only talked about one preset for now. How does it work with the other parts? So you have 4 parts. Basically, they are available here. So we have been so far on part 1 and the Manatee behaves like 4 different synthesizers. That means all the actions we have done so far on part 1 can be done on the other parts. So you can, the same way as loading on part 1, load different preset on the part 2, on the part 3, and by changing the MIDI channel of your controller or your sequencer, play different sounds at once. So what is a multi? A multi is a group of 4 parts with 4 presets. So why are multis important? Because when you are preparing for a live set or you're playing with sequencer, you want to remember the configuration of 4 parts and not just one single preset. So how to do so? Then you go to the multi page here and you have your multi. So right now it's the default multi. We have not loaded or created one, but let's say we are satisfied with the preset we selected on the 4 parts, and we can also, like preset saving, save a multi. So for this you have different bank. It's the bank M from 0 to 12. So let's say we want to replace our multi 1. We don't give it a name, we just set init for now, save it. Now that the multi is saved, what you will notice is your presets are now belonging to bank E. And bank E is a special bank for the multis, and it copies the preset that you selected before you save your multi. And what is this for? It's made so that you can make modifications on your original presets without disturbing your multis. And it's also made so that when you adapt your multis for playing live, let's say you put some EQs, you change the volumes and so that the preset pass well with the sequence you are playing, you will not change the original presets. There is one thing I forgot to mention, is the Manatee is also a MPE compatible synth. MPE stands for MIDI Polyphonic Expression, and it's when you want to use the sound engine with a controller which has multiple sources for expressivity. So now how to change a regular multitimbral multi to a MPE multi? It's quite easy. You go back to the multi page and you use the rightmost part to change MTB to MPE. And now your Manatee will work in the MPE mode. And the parts are working a little bit differently. The part 1 is usually set to control the lower zone of the MPE. The second part, if you configure it so, is the higher zone. And the 3 and 4 parts are left for other use. But we will make a special tutorial regarding MPE. Thanks for watching and see you next time.